Okay, so finally we start chapter three, which is production choices. And the entire book, of course, is a mathematically based book. Chapter three, four, and five are very heavy on the math, but right now we have a lot of reading ahead. So we can just jump right in. Chapter three, production choices. So first they define firms. We do that right now. We have this small thing. A firm is just basically a company, big or small. Define a firm, I'm just, in a way, I'm just kind of, my own definition doesn't really count, but if we kind of present our own understanding, let's just say one employee, is one employee at a company, a firm, just one employee? Well, maybe, because a firm is just basically defined as you have something and there are inputs and you have outputs. So if we're building something, there are certain inputs that you take in. Uh, the firm is the production. So the whole thing here, this whole little chart, is the firm. They don't define it this way. I'm just kind of giving like a little thing, but a company is a firm, but what about each individual employee of the company? Well, let's just say the easiest thing we have in our head is if we're an assembler or something, but you do other things also if you're just kind of a computer jockey or something like that. Yeah. But we have certain inputs and you have a product and output. So maybe a person can be considered a firm. But we don't really say that. We just basically say that all companies are firms, but specifically how a firm is defined as any set of inputs or outputs. This here, we don't have to, uh, define that well, exactly the inner workings of the firm. Yes, but all companies, they take in certain, it would be material things, but anything, I guess we wouldn't really say conceptual. But to produce, we have to take in certain inputs. Yeah, so certain inputs enter the firm, and we produce products, and that's exactly what a firm is. So, yeah, companies, corporations, LLC. There are other definitions, perhaps other than a company, but basically, when we say the word firm, we're really just thinking about all companies that exist. So dictionaries typically define firm as a business unit, company, or enterprise, but exactly what do firms do? What are their objectives and why do they exist in the first place? Stop for a minute and think about different examples of firms. Which examples do you have in mind? Here are some examples: Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Netflix, Walmart, McDonald's, a farm producing strawberries in California, the small family owned restaurant in our neighborhood, the one person firm of the plumber making, the one person firm of the plumber making repairs at my home, in the barber who cuts my hair. So there we go. A single person input and outputs can be considered a firm. This is a very diverse list of firms that do very different things and may have different objectives. But we want a simple model that encompasses some of the main forces driving what these firms do, and that but we want a simple model that encompasses some of the main forces driving what these firms do, and that elucidates the firm's objectives. In this book, we will view firms as entities that take inputs, yeah, take in inputs and produce some outputs. So we don't have to complicate that. It's very easy. See figure 3.1 is the figure we just saw. Moreover, we will view firms as having one clear objective to maximize profits. Therefore, our firm has a problem to solve, which actions to take in order to maximize its own profit. In this chapter, the set of actions available to the firm is very simple. The firm will choose how much output to produce and how much of the different inputs to use, with the objective of maximizing its own profit. Real life is more complicated than that. For example, the production box can be very complex. That's the middle box. Yeah, can be very complex. It's basically that middle box is the entire company. The firm may need to may need to make many other decisions, and the firm may care about other things in addition to monetary profit. E.g., the firm might be concerned about its carbon footprint. However, this chapter, however, in this chapter, we will keep things simple because once you understand the basic forces driving the behavior of the firm, it is easier to incorporate other relevant features in the model. In later chapters, we will consider a few other relevant choices that the firm needs to make. For example, we will study how the firm can design a compensation scheme to increase the productivity of its workforce. In a more advanced economics class, you can learn how to add even more complex features to the firm's problem. Finally, you should be thinking, why do firms exist in the first place? Why should a firm produce goods and services internally as opposed to contracting out each of these activities? One important reason is that in contracting out activities, the firm would incur transactions costs. Transaction costs include bargaining costs, enforcement costs, search costs, and the costs associated with losing technological secrets by dealing with outside contractors. By producing goods and services internally, the firm can decrease many of these costs. There are limits to the boundary of the firm because there are diminishing returns to marginal oversight. We actually do learn what that means. There are limits to the boundary, blah, blah, blah. Diminishing returns to managerial oversight, but we learn more about some of these concepts later. The tension between these two opposing costs determines the size of the firm as measured by the number of contracts conducted internally versus externally. Yeah, so Ronald Coase introduced these ideas in 1937 paper entitled The Nature of the Firm. Yes, so the reason we kind of go through this systematically, I kind of read through the entire book. There are a few concepts we're supposed to, note. I can only remember when I kind of read through it, but it's always building up to some actual math and assignments that we have to do, but we just can't skip this. So we're just seeing what each section has to offer here. So 3.2, a perfectly competitive market. So a firm is a buyer in markets where it purchases inputs and a seller in markets where it offers its outputs. In chapters 3, 4, and 5, we will consider firms operating in perfectly competitive markets. In this type of market, each firm chooses how much of each input to buy and how much of its outputs to produce. Because the firm cannot change the price it pays for its inputs or the price it charges for its outputs, this is clearly not true in several markets. Let's kind of see where we're going here with this. Yeah, the production function here.